Welcome back, everybody, to Chris and Harry Unplugged. This is episode 9. I'm Harry. That's Chris. And man, folks, what a mess. What a mess last week. And what we're specifically referring to is the Republican presidential debate. If you had the unfortunate experience of watching it on TV or seeing clips on social media, first off, we're sorry. Awful experience, but just a mess overall.
Yeah. I think the plan for today is to do kind of like a deep dive into the first GOP debate. We'll kind of deep dive on the issues like abortion, climate change, talk about the specific candidates, Vivek Ramaswamy, Ron DeSantis, etc. And for the first week in a while, we'll hop off the Trump train. We know he got his mugshot this week in Fulton County, here in Fulton County. So you can go check that out. It's a very beautiful, beautiful scene. But I think we're kind of all under the impression that we have a little bit of orange overload. So let's take a look at the GOP as a whole and dive deep. And I think to start it off, a good way to start it off is we have a compilation of clips cut together of the GOP debate. It's like, I don't know how long, it's like 60 seconds to kind of just give you a general idea of how this debate was, and then we'll actually go issue by issue. So let's take a listen, Harry, if you want to go ahead and pull it up. And
let's do it, man.
If you're listening instead of watching on YouTube, that's totally okay. You'll get the sense. Trust me, this will be good.
Let's watch this real quick.
Drill, frack, burn coal. The climate change agenda is a hoax.
I would get rid of the Department of Education.
Let's shut down the head of the snake, the Department of Education.
I'll also shut down the Federal Department of Education.
Break the backs of the teachers' union.
End the teachers' unions at the local level.
We need education in this country, not indoctrination.
Oh my God. Wasn't that something?
Right. So there we go. So I don't know if I don't know, it kind of cut off that first little part for me, but yeah, he said, drill, frack, and burn coal. That's quality. So that's your general idea right there of the Republican debate. They all attacked each other relentlessly. They Ron DeSantis kind of tried to use as many buzzwords as he can, like indoctrination, shut down every 3-letter agency, and didn't even get to touch on the fact that they all argued practically about who was more pro-life. So,
oh man,
it was an interesting experience. Harry and I watched it together live, and I mean, yeah, Trump did his thing with Tucker Carlson on Twitter. I would not watch it. I would actually rather. No, you know what's funny, Harry? I watched it today before the podcast. I didn't even tell you this. I watched it 45 minutes. And I was actually under the impression, I haven't listened to like Trump speak start to finish like that in a while. I'm actually super convinced that the whole like Joe Biden is incompetent and can't speak. Bro, you should watch the Tucker Carlson debate. It's actually like he's like uncomprehendable. Like Tucker will ask a question and Trump like can't answer because he's so like. Anyways. We're not talking about Trump, remember?
I was just actually thinking that.
Right, that's exactly what I'm talking about. But anyways, so which issue do you want to dive into first on this?
I think we're going to go to climate change first because that was one of the opening ones in the debate. And just for some context here, we don't have the clip here of this, but at the debate when they began to talk about climate, the funny thing is that they had someone, a young person, a Gen-Zer, I believe, ask a question. They had a pre-recorded question. They asked the debate all the candidates, and all of them, instead of the question was something around the lines of what are we going to do about climate change, and what are we going to do to convince people that we actually do care about this issue, we actually do care about our environment. And instead of addressing that question and answering like we have this policy with this plan, all of them were like trying to see who could be the craziest on this issue and be the most climate denying person. They were all trying to see who can deny it the most, basically.
Right, exactly. And like, I talked to Harry about this, just referencing like the fact that the question was asked by a young person. Like, not one time did they mention Gen Z or what they could do for our generation. Really, the only thing they've mentioned about us is that they don't want us to vote. So it's just like clear to like us, like as a regardless of the podcast, regardless of like what I do on social media, regardless of like all that, just as a kid walking around, like I look at this and I talk to friends and it's just like they're not speaking to us at all. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
It's really bad. and I just thought that was such an ironic moment because, we talk a lot. We're going to play the clip. I'm sorry. We're kind of talking, but, Chris and I talk a lot, both privately and publicly, about, Gen Z and how, Gen Z is voting blue and these are the reasons why. And, Republicans are always like, no, Gen Z actually, listens to the Republican Party. The Republicans listen to Gen Z as well. And that was a perfect representation of the Republican Party just totally disregarding Gen Z and everything we care about. They a very reasonable question. And they're just like, no, they answered the question they want to answer, not the one that was asked.
Right.
And they were like, the question they wanted to answer was, who denies climate change the most? So anyway, we have a clip here from Vivek Ramaswamy, who's, polling second or third, depending on the poll you're looking at. And we're playing his perspective because it was the most outrageous, but also pretty representative of the entire Republican field, So let's have a look here and see what Vivek had to say about climate change.
Let's take a look.
It was a hand raised for him, and it's my hands are in my pockets.
No,
because the
I didn't
climate change agenda is a
raise a
hoax. Let us be honest as Republicans. I'm the only person on the stage who isn't bought and paid for, so I can say this. The climate change agenda is a hoax. The climate change agenda is a hoax, and we have to declare independence for it. And the reality is, the anti-carbon agenda is the wet blanket on our economy. And so the reality is, more people are dying of bad climate change policies than they are of actual climate change.
Governor Haley, are you bought and paid for?
Down by 98%.
Hold on.
I mean, what the?
So
was that?
First of all, the second part is just so unbelievably not true, right?
Yeah.
So many more people are dying of actual climate change issues, which people don't realize isn't, especially this summer, I'm in Georgia, right? So we've had even today and yesterday we had excessive heat warnings. Our temperatures were in the 110 degrees, and that's what people think of as climate change, but that's not there's a lot of people actually passing from different things relating to this issue, whether it's water or air, whether it's instantaneous, something you can feel, or whether it's over years and years and years. But first of all, second part's just not true. And you know what that clip reminded me of? It reminded me a lot, and this is why, I think people don't really agree with me on this, but that guy, Vivek, I think he's dangerous. I think Vivek is dangerous, and I think a lot of people are counting him out as he's polling second, he's polling third. He's surging, he's got a little social media campaign going on, and people are I talk to them about him, and people don't really seem to think that he's got a chance, but that guy's scary. That guy's scary to me.
Yeah, I think Vivek is an interesting candidate. He's a little scary, just because a lot of Republicans are falling for his BS, and he's very far right. So actually, on the debate stage, interestingly, I thought he was the most far right candidate in terms of what he said than anybody. And DeSantis is on that stage, right?
Yeah, right.
So I think Vivek is dangerous in his own way, kind of in an underappreciated way, as you said. People, we know how dangerous DeSantis is, how dangerous Trump is, but Vivek has never led. He's never been a legislator, so we don't know how he would approach that.
Right, and I think what's kind of scares me about it, and because I get flashbacks. This is what I was trying to. And I haven't really talked to you about this, but Vivek specifically, I get crazy flashbacks to 2016 Trump on the debate stage, where everybody's kind of this guy has no place in politics, no one really knows, and he's just saying the most outrageous things, and people are kind of just counting him out. But there's a section of the Republican base that's being ignited by this far right, just kind of extreme policy, and it's very it is similar to that, in my opinion, but in a more extreme way. It's almost like he's taking that Trump base and then making it more extreme, and I think that scares me. And I think in that clip, I don't know if anyone remembers this. This is there's a clip of Donald Trump, and maybe if I'm editing, maybe I'll pull it up if I can find it. But there's a clip of Donald Trump, in my opinion, when he won the 2016 election, and it's him sitting on the Republican debate stage, before he's even nominated. And he says something very similar to Vivek, and in that moment is truly when I believe he won the election. They're asking some question that everyone's agreeing on except Trump, and Trump, responds to whatever question it is, and they boo him. The whole crowd boos him hard, just like they did Vivek. And Donald Trump steps back and he says, "The thing is, the RNC told me that everybody on this front row And back there, all of these are special interests and donors. That's why they're booing me. And then he steps back again and he just shuts everybody up. And he says, I don't want your money. I don't need your money. And I'm the only one not bought out by special interests. And that's what I can say, what I can say. And in that moment, it was so powerful to a lot of these like anti-establishment Republicans who just feel like they need a non-politician. And that was like a very encapsulating moment for Trump. After that, the Republicans felt like they saw someone that they had never seen before. And so when Vivek did that and got booed, it very much reminded me of like a scary type of Trump.
Yeah, and that actually is a really good point. And I actually haven't thought about it until now, where like Vivek is kind of 2016 Trump in these debates. He's saying like the most extreme stuff. He's resonating with a certain base in the Republicans. And I think that if Donald Trump didn't still have a grip on the Republican Party, he would be in a very good position to be the nominee.
It'd be Vivek.
Yeah, I think it might be Vivek. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
No. I mean, do you have something you want to say?
No, you can go. You got it.
No, I was just going to say, I think like the other scary part about Vivek is like there is still an opportunity for him, right? In some polls, he's second. And in reality, if, Trump doesn't run for some reason, then it is Vivek. Unless Ron DeSantis can learn how to run a campaign, which he doesn't seem to be able to right now. But
yeah, well, I think that at the end of the day, Vivek still faces some hurdles. So he obviously resonates with a certain amount of people in the Republican Party. He's saying these extreme things and kind of riling up those people. But Vivek is inexperienced. Even Chris Christie called him an amateur on the stage, and he even has dabbled in 9/11 conspiracies.
Right.
And I think that if it ever got to a general election, I'm sure Vivek has some skeletons in his closet that people haven't really paid attention to because nobody really cares about him. Nobody's going to pour money into opposition research on someone who's third when the other guy's like 60 points ahead of him. So I think that it might not be as easy for Vivek as some people believe it to be. But just him being like, yeah, the climate agenda is a hoax. It's all fake. Is like. It's just an extension of the extremism of the Republican Party, where they're just denying science, they're denying facts. I mean, look, we have these awful wildfires in Hawaii and Maui specifically. There's just another evacuation of people in West Maui today due to another bushfire, and it's spreading. Corals being bleached off the coast of Florida due to high ocean temperatures. People described it as similar to a hot tub, right? Canadian wildfires blowing smoke and ash. I'm in New York, so I saw some smoke and ash near me. All these climate events are happening, and it's really dangerous, and it's killing people. It's hurting a lot of people, and Vivek is just up there, just being like, yeah, it's all fake. I don't know. It's frustrating, man.
Yeah, no, I agree, and it's I completely agree with the fact that it's just an extension of, it's not just a Vivek thing. At some level, every single candidate on that stage is dabbling in something, like Vivek just said. And what's funny is because Trump has such a grasp on this party, I'm seeing it now, like the fringe right people who are already turning on Vivek, because I joke with people all the time, you never get in bed with MAGA. You never get in bed or you will get burned every single time. And so now there's people looking into his history, like you said. He went to Harvard and he had a scholarship, and people are like, there's right-wing people right now who are saying his scholarship was quote unquote Soros funded, which not only is like extremely anti-Semitic, whatever, but it just proves that like you play with MAGA, like you try to get in this, like, because I know Vivek, like half the shit he's saying up there, he doesn't even believe, but you're trying to get in bed with MAGA, you're going to get burned, because if it's not Trump, they don't want to hear it because they're a cult. And so it's crazy. And yeah.
Go ahead. No, what I was just going to say about Vivek is that, he slammed Trump in a previous book he wrote. He slammed Trump. He slammed MAGA. And, he's running this presidential race. And as you're saying, he's up there saying things that, he doesn't actually believe. And he's complimenting Trump. In this debate, he said that Donald Trump was the best president in the 21st century, all this bullshit, right? But he's previously slammed MAGA, and now people are like starting to dig that up and be like, yeah, like you hated Donald Trump and the MAGA movement just like a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So I don't know. They're all just a bunch of frauds, and Vivek is just one of them.
Right, exactly. It's truly like when you start to get deep into it, and then we'll go to the next clip. But it's a disgrace to this country. Like at a fundamental level. It's such a disgrace to this country that so many of those people, whether right now it's congressmen and women, It's people on Fox News. It's people on Newsmax. There's a large section of them who don't believe any of what they say. They're like, Tim Scott actually I can name so many, but they sit up there and they say, the DOJ is coming after. They don't believe any of this. They don't, and they have to do it because if they didn't, they wouldn't have a job. But it's truly one of the most disgraceful things you can do as an American with a voice, with some level of influence in politics. To say things like that is it's unbelievable.
Oh yeah, I know exactly. I mean, and I think that we're not talking about that specifically today, although a lot of candidates in the debate echoed a similar claim that the DOJ is targeting Trump. And it's a politicization, you just get it, of the DOJ. You guys get
it.
Yes, okay.
You know what? You're right. Actually, fuck.
It's
dude,
all right,
yeah,
right? It's all right. Just clip it. No, but you get it. Like the it's a Biden DOJ targeting Trump, and they echo these claims, and a lot of those people up there are lawyers. A lot of those people have law degrees, and they know for a fact that that's not happening. And I know a lot of them have read some of those indictments, and they're sitting there like, "What the fuck?"
I would just
right?
love a deep dive on these people. The cabinets and some of Trump's lawyers and all these people just sitting there like, oh my god, this is crazy. What the fuck? But anyways.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry. All right, we're gonna get to the next clip, but we know that. Anyway, point is, we know that these Republicans, especially elected Republicans, not the MAGA base, because they believe 2 + 2 = 5 if Trump says it is. But I know that some of these elected Republicans who are lawyers, who know the legal system, have practiced even. They're looking at these indictments like, holy shit. But anyway, we're not going to talk about Trump. Let's go to the next clip, which is, wow. It's about abortion, ladies and gentlemen. It's a little bit of a compilation of, things that a bunch of different candidates have said about the issue of abortion. So let's just dive right in.
Let's see it.
I'm a pro-life governor.
I'm a pro-life governor.
I am unapologetically pro-life.
An abortion cannot be allowed.
I'm 100% pro-life.
I signed 30 pro-life pieces of legislation while I was governor.
I was proud to sign the heartbeat bill.
Yeah. So again, I think first of all, it goes into this idea that, it's fun, it's interesting to talk about, this person's surging, this person fell flat, this person did this, but at the end of the day, some of these clips are showing that the Republican Party as a whole, at some level, has a core set of beliefs. Climate change isn't real. Gen Z is... Well, I don't even have to talk about Gen Z. Climate change isn't real. We need more guns, less gun reform. We need... abortion isn't a right, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's all the same. And it's crazy because what they're saying up there, being pro-life, they're not pro-life. I mean, and Americans know it. This is not an issue that is popular amongst Americans, to say we want a 15-week abortion ban. The heartbeat bill is 6 weeks. I mean, that's disgusting. It's truly disgusting.
No, and I think one of the things that always is very frustrating for me, and I think other Americans, is that there are so many Republicans out there who have had their partners or even themselves get the procedure, get an abortion done, right? And it's just so frustrating. There's even allegations that Donald Trump has paid for 3 of them. And the only reason I'm saying this is because they believe in rules for thee, but not for me. Right? I bet you any money, I put money on it, that if DeSantis or Tim Scott or Chris Christie or any of these Republicans up there who are saying I'm unapologetically pro-life, if they had a daughter, God forbid, get assaulted and they became pregnant, I'm so confident they would get their daughter that procedure. They would go for the care that is necessary for them, right? They would do that because they're parents. They care about their kid. So if their kid was assaulted, I'm not going to make you have your assaulter's baby. I would hope not. But and it's just so frustrating because a lot of these people don't actually believe in these 15-week abortion, these 6-week abortion bans. They're not actually pro-life. If it came to them, and how many Republicans have we seen exposed in the media for their family or themselves getting the procedure done? But it's just this when it comes to abortion, especially, not only are they trying to infringe on women's rights, but it's always rules for thee, but not for me.
That's extremely well said, and that's incredibly deep because you're right. You're absolutely right. And it just shows, like, again, as a whole, it's just disingenuous. It's so disingenuous. I think that's like an incredible point. And as I've talked about, extensively on TikTok, this is an issue. This is like one of the issues I'm most passionate about is abortion, because obviously it's a fundamental constitutional right that women have in this country to get an abortion. They often feel stuck. They feel hopeless. And an extension of that is you continue to see health outcomes get worse. We continue to see, like, the United States already, our maternal death rate, we have amongst countries similar to us, like G7 countries, our maternal death rate is extremely high. We don't have good health care for pregnant women in this country. In states that have outlawed or have, like, totally outlawed abortion, maternal death rates are skyrocketing. I just did a story on TikTok of this was one of the hardest videos I ever had to film, truly. A 7-year-old, I'm sorry,
13.
Not 7-year-old. 13, thank you. She was
I
in
think so. I
7th.
think there's 13.
Yeah, 13. She was in
Here,
7th.
I got this right here.
Yeah. What do you
Let me actually pull up the story for you guys. People who are watching on YouTube. Can you guys see this?
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, so this is the story. This is the Time article. The reason I said 7 is because she's in 7th grade. I'm sorry. So 13 years old. This is Ashley. I made a video about this. Well, her name, for privacy reasons, her name's Ashley, I believe, Mississippi. And she was assaulted in her backyard. She was raped in her backyard. Like, her mom, fuck, dude. This is... Here
you go. I know. This is really tough.
It's fucking disgusting. Someone grabbed her, watching her play in the backyard, pulled her around the corner, raped her. Obviously, as a 13-year-old, at the time, she might have been 12. Yeah, as the article says.
She was, yeah.
12. She didn't really understand. Obviously, you can't fucking blame the kid. Like, what the fuck? So, her mom kind of noticed that something was off with her over the coming weeks. But Ashley wouldn't say what it was. And you can read right there, when she turned 13 that November, she wasn't in the mood to celebrate. She said, quote, "It hurt." She was crying in her room. I asked what was wrong. She said she didn't want to tell me. And so they end up eventually, as time goes on, January, she gets very sick. The kid gets, Ashley gets very sick, starts throwing up a lot. They go to the doctor. You can see right there. That's when they found out Ashley was pregnant. And again, like, as a kid, it's really hard to swallow. I think some of the, like, nuance of this is through those months. They found out how many weeks. I think they found out she was 12 weeks pregnant. And through those 11 to 12 weeks, she was showing symptoms. And this is like this is what fucks me up so bad. Like, as the kid, as Ashley, like, she didn't understand what was going on. So it's like, not only was obviously she traumatized, she didn't tell her parents, she probably just didn't understand, and she didn't know it was possible to get pregnant. And so anyway, they take her they find out she's pregnant at 11 or 12 weeks. And here's the thing, it says right there, Mississippi enacted a ban on most abortions at 15 weeks. Now, this is the two things people don't understand. Number one, Mississippi is very strict. What's the word? I'm sorry. Mississippi is very strict. So there is exceptions for rape and incest. The problem is nobody even understands how that would work. Those hypotheticals right now or those exceptions are all hypothetical. So, like, hypothetically, if you get raped, you can get an exception, but no one knows. There's no clear in the law a process on how to get that exception. So, there's been two in the state so far, two. You have to get, like, written, approval through X, Y, and Z, which is so dumb. And the other thing that's crazy is if you are raped and and you can get an exception for an abortion, the thing is, it can actually be denied for any reason. You have to prove that you were raped. Like, even if you do, like, and this is, like, an issue rape and assault is something that, I've talked to a lot of women about, and it like, especially in the last year, I've realized how, as a college kid, how common it is. And it's really messed with my head. It's a really fucked up issue that we do not do enough about. So many women experience this, and it's so heartbreaking. And obviously a lot of them don't go to the police if they are raped or assaulted. And I don't fucking like, and anyone who's, I'm not even going to get into that whole thing, but obviously, of course, like if you just use one brain cell or do some research, of course, this is the most traumatizing thing you can go through. One of the most traumatizing things, like you're not going to go to the police. You know, you're just trying your best to survive. And, you know, if you've been touched by this issue, I'm proud of you for surviving. That's what matters. Anyways, but you know, you have to actually prove that you got raped. So if you didn't go to the police, they're like, they might not grant an exception. The second part of this is that not only, you know, is the exception hypothetical, even if you get an exception for rape, there is no abortion providers left in Mississippi, because how are you, you know, as you know, you open an abortion clinic, maybe you're a nonprofit, you can't make any money. You can't pay the doctors because no one's getting abortions because nobody can. So in this story, normally her abortion clinic, her nearest abortion clinic would be an hour and a half away in Mississippi. It was in Chicago, which is extremely far from Mississippi. And so she had a full-time job. And she realized she didn't have money to stay there and pay for the procedure. And, of course, even the mom said in the Time article, you know, as Harry has it up, she'd have to pay for gas, food, and a place to stay, not to mention the cost of the abortion itself. The mom said, quote, "I don't have the funds for this." And, of course, the mom wanted to do what was best. You know, you shout at, you know, I feel absolutely fucking god-awful because I know she wanted nothing more than to go to Chicago. But anyway, I'm sorry for going on and on.
No, you're good, bro.
Ashley ended up having the baby. She stayed home for her 6th grade year as it became more obvious. So Ashley did what girls with no other options do. She did nothing. She stayed home for the rest of her 6th grade year as it became clear she was pregnant, and they didn't want people at school to find out. And she just delivered her baby, and she started 7th grade about 2 weeks ago. So this is a type of effect that, quote unquote, being pro-life has on America. And Harry, I'll let you talk. I'm sorry for going on and on.
No, dude, you hit the nail on the head with a lot of these things. You know, man, bro, this story. I mean, this story is just really tough. And the problem is, it's not the only one, right? You know, this is what's so frustrating about hearing these topics in the debate, right? You have the overwhelming majority of Americans are pro-choice. You see stories like this. You see women having these medical complications across the United States because these Republican states enact these abortion bans, which are very strict, and doctors do not know if they can legally perform these procedures. So women are either being temporarily damaged or permanently damaged, their reproductive organs are being. And then you have these Republican candidates in the debate saying, yeah, no, I'm pro-life. You know, I've signed this amount of pro-life legislation. You know, Tim Scott said in a different interview that if he was president, he would sign the most conservative pro-life legislation possible. You had Donald Trump saying that there should be punishment for women who receive the care. And then, you know, obviously stories like this where you have a 12-year-old at the time, 13 now, having a baby, becoming a mother, and not wanting that to happen. And then having the closest abortion clinic being Chicago, costing probably thousands upon thousands of dollars that this family unfortunately did not have, and they're stuck, right? They're stuck. They can't just produce money, right, and go get this procedure. It's just so frustrating to see all these Republicans just completely deny reality. The reality for so many women now, so many women who are in, you know, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Arkansas, these kind of southern states, Georgia, you're there, Georgia, Florida, are, oh man, they just can't get the care they need, and we're seeing stories like this. It's just so difficult, man.
I agree. There's actually I think it's New York Times. Somebody wrote a couple, maybe it's been a year or two now. It's titled "The Realities of Post-Roe America," and she does a deep dive on a lot, not a couple, of issues that, like, real life stories of people, of the consequences that not having Roe v. Wade is having, and being quote unquote pro-life. I did a video on this as well. You know, there's so many stories of women, you know, like Carrie said, doctors don't know if they can operate. Women are going to, you know, I've read, these are a couple stories I've read. A woman found out her baby had a very rare condition, missing the top of, or I should say, the fetus was missing the top of its skull. It would not survive. and she was told, there's nothing we can do. Your life's not at risk. You're going to carry the fetus that will not make it and will die. You're going to carry it to term. If you get sick, if you get sepsis, you can come back when you're close to death. A lot of women have been told, in ectopic pregnancies where there's a high risk of infection, we have to wait till it ruptures. We're not allowed to operate on you until your life's at risk. One woman was told not to come back unless she had something as severe as liver failure, stroke, or sepsis. There was one woman who had a miscarriage and bled on her own in her home for 9 days. 9 days. These are not stories that are told enough. I really appreciate the work that some of these reporters do, but that's the reality of post-Roe America. That's the reality. It's not just I know Republicans want to make it seem like it's just, I'm 21. I had sex. I got to go pregnant. Oh no, I want to, get an abortion. Bro, that is not what the fuck we're talking about here. We're talking about real life, women facing horrible, horrible conditions. Like I just said, come back when you have sepsis. Come back when you're about to die. You have an ectopic pregnancy? Sorry, we have to wait till it ruptures. Your fetus doesn't have a skull? Yeah, 100% going to die, but you have to carry it. And if you get an infection, sorry. I mean, it's just disgusting. It's disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's so insane that we're at this point in American history. And it's just hard to grasp that in 2023, when we have all this data, all this science, from around the world, even the WHO, these global medical organizations endorse having reproductive healthcare accessible to women of all income brackets, right? Making it accessible as accessible as possible. They say that having the ability to get an abortion is crucial to the quality of life for women. Right, so all these major medical organizations are endorsing having abortions accessible, whether you want to get one or not. You don't have to get one, but just having them there. And Republicans are like, no, we want women to continue to bleed out on the operating table. And as Chris said, and I just want to quickly pull up something while we're talking about this and do it just a quick comparison for everybody here. This is why, this is. And for the people listening, I'll describe it. This is an executive order, and it's a fact sheet that President Biden about an executive order that President Biden signed in July of 2022. So pretty much a week or two after Roe v. Wade was overturned. And the Biden administration has continued to protect reproductive freedoms, whether it's in this executive order, it protects access to medication abortions, ensure emergency medical care, protect access to contraception, launch outreach and public education efforts, convene volunteer lawyers. It also protects patient privacy and access to accurate information, because there's so much disinformation and misinformation when it comes to reproductive health care, promotes safety and security. And the reason I'm pulling this up for everybody is that it shows you the difference in 2024, right? It's not just a battle of Trump v. Biden, and that's important. But it shows you how we have an administration right now who's working to protect the rights of women and their reproductive freedoms, versus Donald Trump, who is the frontrunner and likely the nominee, who said that women should be punished if they get an abortion. Right. And this comparison is really, really important. And the Biden administration, the Biden campaign, just launched a brand new ad talking about how all these Republican presidential candidates want to take away that right. They want to make it harder. So when you're voting in 2024, don't listen to. I want to, keep abortion in the back of your minds. Keep the reproductive freedom in the back of your minds, because you're going to hear all these noise. And as Chris said, you're going to hear all this noise from Republicans that it's just 20-year-olds, 21-year-old teenagers who are having sex and then getting pregnant. And they just want to, they want to abort it because they don't want to take care of it. They don't want the responsibility. It's like, no. Yeah. Women are getting raped. Women are experiencing medical complications, and they literally can't get the care they need. Some of them, they could fucking die, right?
You're right, exactly. And thank you for pulling up the White House stuff, because I think that's a really important comparison. A lot of these issues, just compare and contrast what the Biden administration does compared to what all these Republicans say. And first of all, for the record, not only are women, experiencing horrible conditions, being assaulted, all this. If you're a woman in this country, and you're 21 or 22 or 30, or I don't care how old you are, and you go out and you have a good time, and you get pregnant, actually, regardless of all that, you have a constitutional right to an abortion.
Yeah.
Just period.
Yeah.
Just straight up period. It's not
Absolutely.
even that's what pisses me off the most. Not only are Republicans saying oh, it's only, young kids getting pregnant and they don't want the responsibility. not only is that not true, but I just want to look at you and be like, okay, that's their constitutional fundamental right as women, and the fact that you would take that away is so disgusting.
Oh yeah.
And I just want to say real quickly, and I won't pull it up, but I just want to say it in general. The Department of Justice has said that they will do work to try to make sure that there's been some fights in the legal system about whether abortion pills are legal and where you can get them, and that's currently the most popular way to get an abortion after a lot of these clinics were outlawed. Is 70% of abortions are now medically induced, they're at-home abortions induced by a pill. I hope I'm saying that right. But a lot of these states right now are behind on regulating. Like a lot of these states that have banned, they don't understand how to. You can't search through the mail. It's like in some of them, the law is complicated. So essentially, there's this gray area right now that has not been fixed. And so just to let everybody know, as I'm not telling you to do anything illegal. I'm not telling you to do anything wrong. I'm telling you that it is possible to get abortion pills online. There's just as an educational resource, there's a website called Aid Access. They're overseas. They ship pills from doctors in Sweden and Finland, Europe. They will actually negotiate with you on price. So if you're they might be, it's not very expensive. They might be $70, $80, $100. You can say, hey, I'm kind of behind. Can we do 50? And they'll work with you. Aid Access is one, Plan C is another. Just an educational resource. I'd check it out. I'm not telling you to do anything that you shouldn't do. I'm not telling you to break the law. I'm not telling you to, have an abortion or commit a felony. I'm just saying if you're interested in, being educated as an American and how some of this works, you can check out those websites, and they're great to look at.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, no, definitely go check those out for educational purposes. We're not encouraging a crime of any sorts. We're just saying go check them out, and you do what you will. And I also think you made a good point before that as well. Regarding the abortions, it's not just women who are assaulted and women who have medical complications. It's also as you said, you and I you're 21, I'm 20. We're in this age group where if you're in college, you're a girl, you go out, you have a good time. 6 weeks, 8, 10 weeks, whatever later, you realize you're pregnant, and you want to get an abortion. You're 21, right? You're 21. You don't want to have a kid at 21. You're still in college, right? Fine. Great, go do it.
Fine.
That's perfectly okay with me. And that's
exactly.
the crazy thing. It's Republicans are like, oh, you had an accident, you got pregnant. Sorry, you're gonna have to. No, who the fuck would make a 21-year-old? Who the fuck thinks it's okay to force a 21-year-old woman to give birth while she's in the middle of receiving her education at college? Or
exactly.
Of any age,
and it's just it's also disgusting, the misogyny, in my opinion, too, when Republicans try to bring up that point, when they're like, women are just using this, young women, we're in college, 2021, they're just using this as a form of birth control. They're just going out and having sex, and they don't want to have the responsibility. Fuck you.
Go fuck yourself.
Do you have you never sat for 1 second to think about how traumatizing it is, even if you are pro-choice, how traumatizing it is to get pregnant and then have to make that decision and go get the procedure and spend the money? That is a very big experience. That is traumatizing, whether you're pro-choice or not. For Republicans to suggest that they use it as a form of birth control, they're all just sleeping around, they don't give a fuck. No, this is still a very intense issue, whether you're pro-life or pro-choice. You have a right to do it, and so to even suggest that it's an easy thing to do is it's disgusting.
And the fact that, and you make a good point. It's I don't know if you know anybody like this, but I actually know women who I'm friends with who have had abortions. Now they didn't go to. No, I don't know any women that have gone to the actual a Planned Parenthood and received it. They all got abortions via the pill. And what Republicans don't understand about when you take the pill is it's not just you take it and it's done. Yeah. No, it can alter your body. It can alter your hormones for a significant amount of time. It can make you gain weight. All these different things. It can have all these different effects on your body. It's not just a one and done. No, it's it has an effect on you, and nobody's using that as birth control.
Right. It's like you said, via the pill. It's very intense. It's intense. Your hormones are going to be out of whack for a long time. It's really. I'm sure it doesn't feel good. I couldn't even imagine. Yeah. Regardless, just to suggest that like any of this is easy, it's just disgusting. And like you said, I think Americans should keep that in mind because Biden is, like Harry just pulled up the White House website, Biden is fighting and Democrats are fighting to make sure that this issue, we can give women access to abortion care if they're, in a place where it's outlawed and do our best. And also, if you vote the right way in 2024, it's something that can be codified. It's something that can be written. And I know, I won't even get into that, but it's something that we can do something about. So
yeah, and last thing I'll say on this, and then if you have anything else, I'll let you say, and then we can move on. But because I know we're going on this topic for a long time,
it's an important
topic.
Yeah.
But in 2024, I'm sure there are people listening who don't fully agree with me or Chris. They may be on the other side of the aisle. But when it comes to 2024, I know a lot of people aren't fans of Biden. They don't agree with Biden. But the one thing I can promise you about President Biden is that if there are openings in the courts, on the Supreme Court, in lower courts, Biden's going to fill them with judges who are pro-choice.
Right.
So let's just say Clarence Thomas and Justice Alito, who are in their 70s, retire. Or even Justice Roberts, who's been on the court for 15 years, Chief Justice Roberts. Biden's going to appoint someone who's pro-choice. And the minute we have even a 5-4 or even a 5-4 minority or majority, depending on who retires, there will be a lawsuit against these abortion bans, and it's going to go all the way up to the Supreme Court because it only takes 4 justices to rule on a case, or take it up at least, and they are going to reinstall the protections that we've had. There's going to be a little blip in history if we continue to elect Democratic presidents who appoint pro-choice judges who actually follow the law to the bench. So in 2024, you don't have to like Biden. You don't have to agree with everything he's done. You could say this or that about Biden. But remember, the presidency is not just the person in it. They affect so much. And I think a way we can get back Roe v. Wade and the protections we had previously are through judges. And the only way to do that is appointing liberal ones.
And again, I think that's really well said. You often I appreciate you doing the, comparing and the connecting it to 2024, because you're right. Not only is it ridiculous and sad, there's a solution. So
yeah, I think it's one thing, we can sit here and discuss and be mad about it, but we gotta do something. The people, I just hope that everybody's energized on this issue, that we can get out there and because we can solve this. We can solve this in 2024. Anyway, sorry, man.
Exactly. No, you're fine. What's next?
All right. So the next clip we have, and so this one is we're gonna describe this ahead of time for the listeners because this is more of a visual clip. But we have a horizontal clip with captions and everything. It's all fancy. The candidates were asked.
Super fancy.
Super fancy.
People say how fancy. I say the fanciest.
so fancy, folks. And the candidates were asked, would they still support Donald Trump if he were convicted of a felony in 2024? If he were convicted, would they still support him as their nominee? So let's just take a look at this, man. Let's watch this.
If former President Trump is convicted in a court of law, would you still support him as your party's choice?
And they literally all raise their hand, I believe, except
Asa Hutchinson on the far left.
Asa Hutchinson, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, they all of them raise their hand. The crowd goes wild. I mean, like we said, we could talk about Trump extensively. I think this one will be fairly short. That wasn't a question about if he's indicted. That was a question about if he's convicted. If he is convicted, and of however many felonies, however many counts, would you still support him? The Republican Party says yes. The party of law and order, folks. Just remember, the Republican Party is the party of law and order. There just is an asterisk. It only applies to black people in major cities. It doesn't really apply to rich white dudes, because if you're convicted of a felony, it's just, no, it's fine. We'll support you as president. Even when the grand jury slams you, even when it's a grand jury of your peers, it's unbelievable.
It's so frustrating, and it's like, when I saw that clip, and excuse my language, but when I saw that clip, I thought, you fucking cowards. You fucking weaklings.
It's unbelievable.
You garbage human beings. I mean, look, there are different moments in this debate where people were like, oh, I actually agree with. Like, for example, when Nikki Haley was like, yeah, we should come to a compromise on abortion. Or when Chris Christie called Vivek Ramaswamy, ChatGPT, right? Different moments where, your average American might be like, well, yeah, I can get behind that, sure. Just remember this moment and the moment on abortion, on the moment on climate change. Don't get wrapped up in all the noise. They're willing to support a convicted felon. Reminder of the charges. He's being accused of falsifying business records, stealing classified documents, then lying about having those documents, then hiding those documents in his bathroom, then trying to destroy the evidence of having those documents. Anyway.
Yeah.
Entering into a criminal conspiracy to defraud the United States of America. RICO charges. All these things. And the Republicans are like, yeah, that sounds good. What?
Yeah, and again, comparing and contrasting, look, if you don't don't support Biden as much as Harry and I do, that's totally okay. But just remember, when we compare and contrast these things, climate change. Republicans, I made a video about this, they have a 400-page document on how they will literally turn back the clock 50 years. This is not just like, oh, we're going to erase some of the climate progress we've made so far. No. This is like we are going to purposely go backwards. We are going to get rid of renewable energy. We are going to burn more coal, burn more fossil fuels. They have a whole page. Republicans are united about this, whether it's Trump, whether it's Ramaswamy, whether it's DeSantis. They are prepared to take us back 40 years. And just comparing. President Biden, you may say he's not perfect, okay? Well, he's invested in the Inflation Reduction Act alone $370 billion in climate change. We have companies right now. I know people who are working right now to take CO2 from some of these huge plants, these producing whatever, take the CO2 and pump it 5,000 feet underground. That's like directly, revolving around the administration and some of these policies. We're moving forward, regardless of how much you agree, how fast. We're moving forward on climate change right now. Republicans are ready to take us, as united as a whole, ready to take us 30 years back. We need to, drill more oil. We need to burn more coal. You go to abortion, right? We just showed. The White House is prepared as much as they legally can through executive order to protect women's right to an abortion. Republicans united as a whole to do something different about it. And then you go to an issue like Trump, and they are prepared as the Republican Party to all united support the guy convicted of felony, RICO charges, stealing classified documents. Compare and contrast. Biden is not involving himself in DOJ matters. He's not involving himself in legal matters. He has taken us back to sanity. When he is asked every single time, how do you feel about these investigations against Trump, specifically federally? How do you feel about the DOJ's investigation into Trump? How do you feel about the DOJ's charges? He said, that has nothing to do with me. Let the DOJ do their job. He is taking us back to sanity, and whether you like him or not, he has not been charged with 91 felonies. In fact, he's not been charged with a single felony. He's not been charged with a misdemeanor. He has not been impeached. I mean, you don't have to love the guy, but there is a clear choice between democracy, freedom, and moving us forward as a country and moving us way backwards.
Yeah, and I actually think that's perfectly said. And, I think the main theme for me that this debate brought to mind when I was watching it, and I think for a lot of Americans, is just the comparison, as you said. Any of these people would be a significantly worse president than Joe Biden. All of those people have less moral, they have less values, they have less commitment, they have less dignity, respect, all of these things. All of them. The overwhelming majority of those candidates are like, yeah, they are so, just think about it. Again, we are very confident that a lot of those candidates on the stage know that Donald Trump is fucked, right? That these indictments are serious, that Donald Trump acted badly, that he broke the law. I think they would agree. And they are on the stage lying to the American people, putting up their hands saying, I think Trump is great. And even if they're not, let's just say they don't believe it. That might be even worse. That they're like, yeah, we know Donald Trump is being indicted on all these things and he did all these things and there's substantial evidence. We just don't care. We love the guy.
Right.
Look,
exactly.
The comparison's clear, and I don't want to harp too much on Donald Trump because it gets both of us really heated.
It does, right? Exactly. But I think that's well said, and I think the comparison is valid. And like you and I have talked about, we're moving here toward constitutional crisis if we continue to support a felon for president. So do we have the Nikki Haley clip?
We do have one. We have one final clip, folks, and in this clip, Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley almost makes a case for President Biden's reelection. I thought this one was interesting. Let's take a listen here.
So why are you better positioned to turn around this economy that we've heard all of these voters talking about tonight than Mr. Ramaswamy, who is a successful entrepreneur nationally right now. He's beating you in the polls.
Well, I don't care about polls. What I care about the fact is that no one is telling the American people the truth. The truth is that Biden didn't do this to us. Our Republicans did this to us, too. When they passed that $2.2 trillion COVID stimulus bill, they left us with 90 million people on Medicaid, 42 million people on food stamps. No one has told you how to fix it. I'll tell you how to fix it. They need to stop the spending. They need to stop the borrowing. They need to eliminate the earmarks that the Republicans brought back in. And they need to make sure they understand these are taxpayer dollars. It's not their dollars. And while they're all saying this, you have Ron DeSantis, you've got Tim Scott, you've got Mike Pence. They all voted to raise the debt. And Donald Trump added $8 trillion to our debt. And our kids are never going to forgive us for this. And so at the end of the day, you look at the 2024 budget, Republicans asked for $7.4 billion in earmarks. Democrats asked for $2.8 billion. So you tell me who are the big spenders. I think it's time for an accountant in the White House.
Vice President Pence.
Okay, so first, I just want to, before we jump into this, Nikki Haley said a lot of crap right there, right? When she's talking about cutting spending, basically what she means is Medicaid, Medicare, food stamps. She's like, let's make it harder for poor people to eat. That's what Nikki Haley's saying.
Right.
But what she did say, and is correct, is that Donald Trump added $8 trillion to the debt. And Joe Biden, in his budget that he's proposed, reduces the deficit by $3 trillion over 10 years. So thank you, Nikki Haley, for pointing out that Donald Trump is running up the debt. He ran it up with his tax cuts, and Biden's doing the opposite.
Right, I agree, 100%. I think it's like 7 point something, but yeah, practically $8 trillion is what Trump did.
Yeah, 4 years.
And yeah, it just kind of also shows, regardless of even if it was a lot of crap, the infighting here, dude, the infighting between this party is crazy. I mean, the GOP is fractured, trying to figure out who to blame and, where they go from here, because I don't know. I mean, it's just wild. Think about this, bro. Let me ask you a question. Nikki Haley and Hutchinson were like the most moderate people up there.
And that's crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Is that not crazy?
It was like Doug Burgum or Hutchinson, Christie, and Haley were the most moderate, and then Pence, DeSantis, Ramaswamy, and Scott.
Yeah, let me ask you a question. Where in this Republican Party, a veteran war hero patriot, John McCain, dude would be called. This party would call him like a communist. They'd be like, "No, get the fuck out."
They call him the biggest rhino. And I was actually thinking about McCain.
They call him
recently.
a Democrat. They just
they call him a Democrat.
They call him a Democrat.
And I've been thinking about McCain recently, and kind of like what he would say about this. McCain. Obama spoke at his funeral, and Obama made a great point. Like, we disagree. We disagree, but at the end of the day, we're both Americans, right? And it's kind of what he said about McCain generally. And I just wonder what John McCain would be saying about this Republican field and everything that's happened with Donald Trump. And I wish we can go back to the days and where we had Republicans who were not standing up for crap like this. We disagreed with them. We could vehemently disagree, but at the end of the day, we both recognize that we're Americans. That's not even the case anymore with the Republican Party.
Exactly, and the clip. What's the clip of? Is that McCain? What's the clip of? I think it is McCain. I think it's Obama McCain, and someone says Obama is a Muslim.
Oh, right. Do you want me to pull that up?
No, it's okay. Or you can if you want. If you can pull it up, if you can find I think this just to end it would summarize this really well of where we need to go back to is there's a clip of essentially McCain and Obama are on the campaign trail. It's heating up, and a woman at his rally asks a question to McCain, and McCain shoots back. It's actually very powerful. And after if you're young, because I know we're 2021, maybe hopefully we have some younger people who listen to podcasts as well. I think this will give you a really good summary of where the country used to be a short time ago and where we are now in terms of politics. Think about right now. Think about before we pull up this clip of Trump, being on a stage and calling people nasty, disgusting, sons of bitches, just the most awful things, saying they're horrible people, X, Y, and Z. Are you good? Can you not pull it up or?
Well, so this is not going to make sense to the viewers, but remember we had to like put it in the media.
Oh,
I'd have to download. But listen. I'll read you. I'll find it. I'll find you the quote in substitute of the video. And I'll read. This is just an article from ABC Chicago. During an October 10th, 2008 town hall event in Lake Hill, Minnesota, a constituent told McCain that she couldn't trust Obama. The woman called Obama, quote, an Arab, end quote, at the height of the conspiracy movement, claiming Obama, who was born in Hawaii, was not a natural-born American citizen and therefore ineligible for the presidency. That is a conspiracy that Donald Trump has also furthered. And in response to that woman saying, I can't trust him, he's an Arab, McCain shook his head and he said, no, ma'am, he's a decent family man, citizen, that I just happen to have disagreements with on fundamental issues. And that's what this campaign is all about. So instead of buying into the conspiracies, instead of, taking a position that was popular within the conspiracy base and, quite frankly, popular with people inside that town hall, he got somewhat of a negative response when he said that. McCain did the right thing. And he said, no, Obama's a family man.
Exactly. And sorry to cut you off, but, if you have time, guys, after this podcast, you should go listen because, Harry, thank you for reading that quote. I appreciate you finding that. But even when you watch him do it, he shoots back very hard. He's like, no. Obama's a good man. We're friends. We have disagreements, but he's a good man. And that's how politics in a lot of ways was. And it wasn't perfect. But, now you have just the most disgusting, divisiveness amongst us, but especially really the Republican Party. When has Joe Biden ever gone on a stage and said, look at this ugly, horse-faced, dumb, bitch? That's never happened. The Republican Party has turned into this war of just Obama, he's born in another country, he's a horrible man. It's not, oh, we disagree. It's it's just disgusting. So I'd pull up the clip. I think that's a good way to kind of end off and remind people.
Yeah, and I promise you as we get closer to 2024, when we're seeing folks like Obama campaign, President Biden campaign, Gavin Newsom, all these other Democrats who are getting out on the campaign trail, I can promise you that you won't hear a single one of them make racist, homophobic, xenophobic, just overall distasteful claims about Donald Trump and his family. They won't say that, Donald Trump's sons are crack addicts or that they're this or that or make up conspiracies about them. No, they'll run on policy because Democrats can win on policy. We don't got to take the low blows. Republicans can't win on policy. That's why you see them talking about these conspiracies. But just keep that in mind. That
I agree.
With that clip and with the Democratic Party today, it's about decency versus garbage. So
yeah, I agree 100%. Well, what a packed episode! An hour. I think that was really good. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought that was good, man. I mean, some good conversations. We kind of talked about a variety of topics, which was interesting, unexpected. I think it was cool.
Yeah, I think it was good. Well, listen, guys, before we end off here, listen. In the comments of this episode, there will actually be a Google Analytics form that you can fill out. I know last week I kind of messed up on that, but I have a much better one. I would really mean a lot if you could just check it out, fill it out, tell us what you think, just to kind of improve the podcast as time goes on. You can catch us anywhere every week, Monday, 1 p.m., wherever you get your podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, etc. Remember, you can email us questions at cmhs.com.
CMHS Unplugged.
I'm sorry. Questions at cmhsunplugged.com. You can email us anytime. It'll be in the description of both the Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and the YouTube. So you can email us questions, and I think we're going to try to get back to some questions next week. And yeah, I think that's about it.
I think it's about it.
All right, guys. Well, have a fantastic Monday. We really, really appreciate you tuning in this week. It means a whole lot. You guys are the best. Be safe, be easy, and we'll see you next week.